We all love Super Mario, don't we, folks? His new movie is gonna be out before we know it. It's a shame it's gonna be bad.
Things happen one after another without a chance to catch your breath.
I exaggerate. But at the same time, if you've seen the first Mario movie, you know exactly what this one will be offering. And that's by design. Nintendo keeps an iron grip on their IPs, and they wouldn't let a Mario movie about anything. It won't be about anything at all, because that would decrease the amount of audience it applies to. So rather, we'll just get some incredibly broad strokes about family, and a lot of pretty shapes and colors. It's not the end of the world. Mario 2 will definitely have very pretty shapes and colors. It'll be enjoyable, and if you see it, you'll have a fun day at the movies. But I wouldn't call it good. That's what this video is gonna be about. Can it be a good thing that movies aren't trying to be good anymore? Can the fact that a movie doesn't have a specific message be a good thing? What brought this train of thought on was a post by the iconic Spum. You all know him, I'm sure. Yapping about how a silver lining to movies sucking now is that they won't have saccharine, believe in yourself, importance of family, slop morals shoehorned in, and then makes the rather extreme point that those are worse for kids than slop comedies. Discussing this is a little difficult without jumping to extremes like, all kids' movies should only be like the Minions forever. So I'll compile my thoughts for and against his statement. The stuff that makes him right is that if you consider Post as finding a silver lining to movies being bad now, as in, sure, they're bad, but at least they aren't pretentious like they have been the past couple of years, and we don't have to be forced to pretend they're good. I'm sure a lot of you got caught on the fact that he said wholesome Reddit believe in yourself, family's important messaging is bad for kids, and in fact worse than the Family Guy Minions brainless comedy. How can this be, when statistically at least one of those movies with that kind of message is your favorite? I know Coco, the example Spum chose, is beloved by many of my friends. But what if, instead of Coco, he picked Turning Red? Not so wholesome now, is it? Coco is a good movie, and Turning Red is a bad movie, but they share a lot of DNA, and they and a lot of other movies have subtle, off-putting messages like the parents being wrong and the kids being right, which is a pretty basic narrative convenience that also happens to be wrong and harmful. But it doesn't change the fact that it exists, or its inclusion was a deliberate choice on the filmmaker's part. Coco and Turning Red are not separated by wholesomeness of the message, but by competence. Turning Red has to lay out its subtext loud and clear, and the skeevy overtones come out loud and clear, because it's just not a very competently made movie, and the market appreciated that. And then you have stuff like Elemental, which despite appearance isn't a kid's movie at all, but about growing up in an Asian immigrant family and dating a white guy, or whatever that movie's about. But that went over real well with the kiddies. In Elemental, the message is focused on to the treatment of literally the entire movie. At least Minions doesn't do that. Sets out to be a kid's movie, and it succeeds at being a kid's movie. That leads me to the refutation of Spum's statement, which is that just because the kiddies will love Minions does not make them that much healthier than ham-fisted and flawed moralism. There's not that much difference in the corporate beliefs and environments of Illumination versus Disney Pixar. For all intents and purposes, they might as well be the same company. For I have no doubt that Illumination would insert the same kind of toxic positivity and messaging if they could get away with it, and many background elements and plotting take those assumptions for granted. Illumination has just dodged Pixar's pratfalls coincidentally by happening to be cynically optimized for maximum audience retention and kids' attention grabbing. I have no doubt that's why Nintendo selected Illumination to make the Super Mario movies, and it certainly seemed to work out for them. It doesn't change the fact that, as I said before, the first Super Mario movie is just shapes and colors and music. Separated from the Minions only in the fact is that it also is built to appeal to adults as well as silly children. Get a load of Inside Out too. If you watch both movies back to back, the gradual buildup of tension between the inside and outside worlds in the first movie before going to the emotional climax is reheated and repeated throughout the second movie, losing its impact each time, as well as suffering from the breakneck pacing, the fact that there's way more characters that are way less developed. It's just a worse movie by pretty much every conceivable metric. And it doesn't even address the subtle pratfall with the first movie, which is that Riley doesn't have much agency and comes off as more of a meat puppet for the emotion characters rather than an actual person character. They literally are the same movie, made by the same company, got the same plot points, in the same franchise. They both try to have a poignant message, but one is good and well remembered, and one will be relegated to lost media as soon as Disney bothers to take it off their streaming service. That's what I take away from all this. The depth of the message of a movie is just one axis, and it's almost completely separate from the axis of being good or bad, or right and wrong, or good or evil, or whatever value you want to ascribe to a movie. But Spum also kind of cooked, because the influx of bad, meaningful movies is worse than a bad slop comedy. And public opinion regarding these bad movies is rightly decreasing, and regarding bad movies as bad in a more honest light, bereft of toxic positivity, can only be a good thing. But that's just my opinion. If you disagree, feel free to argue in the comments and maybe call me a slur if that's your fancy. Or like and subscribe if you like awesome, cool, and handsome people. That's it. See ya.